This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
This is Jaziea Farag coming to you live on the Morning Break Show. We're going to be talking about how we can support our young people to thrive.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Hi everyone, I've been really looking forward to this morning. I'm hoping it's going to be a really good chat. We're going to have a chat about mental health and well-being. I think it's one of those buzz terms that's maybe misunderstood and maybe used too much. So hopefully this morning we're going to leave with some practical tips that help us support young people to really get a handle on their mental health. We've got a really great guest today. We've got Alison. I'm going to let her introduce herself in a moment. Hopefully you can hear me. Just waiting for her to join into the chat so she can come and talk to us. But she's got a really great insight into young people's mental health and a really great knowledge on how we can be helping these people at school and at home to deal with the many pressures that they face and to be ready to learn and lead those happier, healthier lives. I think she's just struggling to get in at the moment, so I'm just going to try and add her into the chat, and then hopefully we'll get started. I'll just let her in. Let's hope she can hear me. Hi Alison, can you hear me?
Okay, am I in?
You're in, hooray! I was a bit worried then, I thought we didn't have you. We've got you.
Okay, you can hear me clearly, can you?
Yes, I can hear you clearly, that's great. So I was just wondering if you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, can I just first say, obviously, I'm in school. It's very noisy in school. It's me break time in a couple of minutes, and so there could be some background noise, but that's, hey-ho, that's school life, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Alison Raya. I'm a nurture manager in a high school. I've been in my current role for 10 years now. My role is to support the emotional well-being and the mental health of pupils from year 7 right the way through to year 13. And I do this by having one-to-one nurture sessions with them. And a nurture session is an hour long. It's in place of a lesson. So, yeah, and before that, I was in the civil service for 20 years. So there we go.
Oh, wow. 10 years. It's funny when you say out loud, isn't it? There's so much experience and everything in there. And I just thought, I always like to start on a cheerful note. So we just thought you could tell me a little bit about one positive that stands out about those 10 years working in nurture.
Oh, a positive about what I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Oh, there's lots of positives, but I think every day is an opportunity to make a difference in a young person's life. I think it's just so rewarding to help pupils feel better about themselves and their lives. And I've got to say this, Jez, I absolutely feel honoured when young people share with me and they open up and share their innermost thoughts and feelings. So, yeah, that's an honour when they do that with me. So, yeah, opportunity to make a difference, let's say.
Definitely. It's such a powerful role, isn't it, really? Because you get to work so closely with pupils, whereas I suppose some teachers, they'll see so many pupils over the day that they don't really get that really strong relationship that you're able to build.
Absolutely, and I think they recognise that as well. I mean, if you think about it, a whole hour with a pupil listening to them, I mean, some parents don't even have that time to actually sit down for a whole hour and just give that full attention. So it is a privilege, and it's an honour, like I said, when they do, sit there with you and open up. So yeah, it's a fabulous role.
Oh, lovely. So I was just looking at definitions because I was talking about at the beginning, there's so many different definitions and the way that mental health is being used, all over the media and, all Twitter and everything. So I found the World Health Organization defines mental health as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes their abilities, can cope with normal stress of life, work productively and fruitfully, and is able to contribute to their community. There's quite a lot in there, but I was just wondering if you think that is a helpful definition.
Um, yeah, I think that's a lovely definition. I'd probably add to that, um, being able to recognise when you can't do what it was all saying then,
Yeah,
and then giving yourselves, that time, to rest or recover. And I suppose that's probably what I'm doing within my role is I'm teaching pupils to recognise signs of poor mental health, and then and hopefully to give them the tools then to support themselves.
I love that. I love that you said, yeah, recognizing when you can't, because that's really hard for adults, isn't it, to do?
Absolutely.
Recognizing when when you've got to that point where you can't cope with the normal stress of life, or you can't work productively, and you can't contribute. So having those skills embedded really early on,
Yeah,
I suppose, is so important. And the fact that you're available from year 7 all the way up,
yeah,
the
yeah,
same person, is probably so important for those pupils.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice. I like that. I'm going to use that one when you recognize when you can't. It sounds like something that could be on a mug, doesn't it?
I think it's important because at the end of the day, life isn't perfect every day. Life is about ups and downs. So it's great having this definition of this is what we aspire to. But there are going to be days when it's not so easy to do that, and just to know when that's happening for you. Know when you're having one of those days, but also know that that's okay.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks, Alison. And I was just wondering if there you could just talk a little bit about how you do that sort of practically, how you support good mental health in your role.
Okay. Right. Okay. So, well, like I said earlier, what I do is I support pupils for during with one-to-one sessions. We call them one-to-one nurture sessions, and these are arranged by our achievement team. So, or you could call them heads of year. So we can't just have pupils just coming out of lessons deciding to come along to nurture and have a nurture session with me. It's got to be, it's obviously got to be pre-arranged. Um,
Yeah,
I do have the facility that if pupils don't have an appointment, they can actually drop in to see me at break time or lunchtime, and have an informal chat if they want to. So that's set up as well.
it's nice.
I suppose, but some of the reasons why pupils are referred to me, anxiety, depression, panic attacks, self harm. Eating disorders, exam stress is a really big one at the moment.
I imagine, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes friendship issues as well. So there's so many, and I've only just touched the tip of the iceberg there, but that will give you an idea of what sort of things people are referred to me for. And then what I'll do is arrange to meet them for the first time, and that first session is what I call my get to know you session. I want to
Mm,
get to know them. I want to know a little bit about them, their background, their family, and the main part of that session really is to just listen. I just
nice.
listen. I mean, obviously, I'm asking questions, but the main part of that is listen. And, just listening alone brings down stress levels. We know this. And funny enough, I was on a training course recently, my TIS training, and I learned that they told me that feeling understood brings levels of toxic stress down. And when I heard
Oh,
that, I thought, oh my gosh, that has just changed the way I work with pupils completely. It's really had a massive impact on my sessions. And so now my my motto sort of thing when I'm in a session with a pupil is or my mantra is help me understand. Help me understand what it is you're trying to tell me, what it is you're feeling. And then what I'll do then is I'll use tools to facilitate deeper conversations, obviously. And some of the tools would be sound play and Lego and using emotion cards. So that would be like our first session. And then once we've uncovered, I mean, hopefully we'll, sort of decide what is the issue, what is the challenge within the first session. But if not, that's
Yeah.
fine. Come back for the second session. But then once we've uncovered the issue, once we've decided, right, this is how this is what problem is, then we'll discuss the best way forward and how I can support them. And I mean, sometimes it could be just they want to come back and talk to me each week, and that's fine, and I'll do that.
Yeah.
I do like to use strategies with pupils because I do have a lot of pupils with anxiety and depression and panic attacks. So I will use strategies like mindfulness, breathing techniques, emotional freedom technique, EFT, tapping. So yeah, I will use strategies to support them as well as talking therapy. So that's basically what I do to support good mental health.
It's amazing. There's so much involved in your role. I love what you said there about just that feeling understood. We're going to have so many little mottos for mugs by the end of this session, I can see. Because it is just so important, isn't it? It's just that feeling heard, knowing that someone's actually got a full hour to listen to you.
I can't take credit for that. That helped me understand, though. I did the TIS training recently, and one of the trainers there, Coral Harper, she was absolutely phenomenal. That was sort of like the thing, help me understand. And if you're actually asking the pupil that, they feel like you want to understand, so they're more willing then to share as well. So yeah, that is my mantra now when I go into a session.
Yeah, I love that because even for adults, it's just having somebody say they just want to understand, they want to listen to you would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Well, if you think about it, when you're with your friends and you're talking to or telling them about an issue or something that's going on, you want not wanting them to jump in and try and fix it all, are you? You just want them to understand what it is you're feeling in that moment. You could be frustrated, or something's bothered you in work, or something bothered you with your partner at home, and you're just wanting to share, and you just want someone to understand what you're saying, but not necessarily to do anything about it. And that's for us adults, isn't it? So it's the same with pupils, with young people. So yeah, yeah.
I love that. And I was just listening to a few of the strategies that you talked about, and I'm not really. There's some of them that I'm not really aware of. So I just wondered if you didn't mind telling me a little bit more. I've heard of tapping, but I'm not really sure how it works. So I was wondering if you could just tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I've actually been using tapping for years. And can I just say as well, I never ever share with pupils strategies or tools about things that I don't do myself. These are all things I actually do myself. They're things
Lovely.
I feel passionately about. I know they work for me, and that's what I will share with my pupils. So tapping, tapping is a combination of ancient Chinese acupressure, and that's the tapping. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody having acupuncture.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you see they have all the needles popped in certain places on the face and on the body, and that, well, that's when you're tapping on those points. That's exactly the same thing. Instead of putting the needles in, we're just tapping on those particular points, and
Wow.
then the as you're tapping, you're actually talking at the same time. So and that's like the modern day psychology. So you're speaking, you're talking the truth about how you're feeling as you're tapping. And what that's doing basically is just it's relaxing the nervous system. It's actually it's sending signals to the brain, sending signals to the amygdala that whatever the issue is, and relaxing the nervous system around that issue. But like I said, I've been using it for years. I mean, I will say it doesn't work with every pupil.
Yeah.
Some people, think, oh no, this is silly, because you can look a bit, you might feel a bit silly doing it, but
Yeah.
this, like, I give obviously lots of different tools, to share with pupils and that, so they've got a choice then. But I find tapping does tend to work with the older pupils, the sixth formers. So yeah, that's what.
Right. And I suppose that's what you're talking about, isn't it? Giving them a choice of tools. So just opening them up to what's out there is so important, so that they can actually use when they've got those moments of stress independently. They've got a toolbox, I suppose,
Absolutely, yeah.
to tap into.
No one size doesn't fit all, and every person that comes into this room with me, is a unique individual. I'm going to share as much as I can with them to support them, but at the end of the day, it's about personal choice, and it's important that they choose what's right for them, not because I've told them to do something. So, yeah, yeah.
I love that. And you talked about emotion cards, and I hear about those a lot. I'm just wondering if there's something quick that you maybe do with the emotion cards that
Right. Well, I
might be
actually I
useful.
got that once again. That was from my TIS training. It was a box of card. I haven't got them with me. I'm actually in a separate room actually from my office. But they're emotion cards. I can always send you the link to them. But I bought them off Amazon. And they are just pictures of different emotions. With one side of the card is just the picture, and the other side is the picture again, but with a description, a one-word description of that emotion. And sometimes, I mean, I had one pupil who said to me, "Thank you so much for using those cards with me," because she wasn't really sure what she was feeling, but when she saw the picture, that was it, and then she was able then to sort of get into a discussion about it with me. But yeah, these emotion cards you can find on Amazon and other retailers, I'm sure.
Oh, and yeah, because I was actually doing a bit of reading about the language of emotions and how it can hold you back so much if you haven't got, the language to discuss how you're feeling. So even just, yeah, so having those cards, I suppose, is really important. And
Absolutely.
I was just thinking about as well, we've been through such crazy times over the last few years, and we can't really think about, the mental health and the well-being of our young people without thinking about what a crazy couple of years they've had, and how, just thinking of COVID in particular, how that could have impacted on the young people. What do you think about that? Have you seen that, the impact of COVID as the young people have come back to school?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not just on young people; it's on the adults as well, on staff. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, obviously, spending so much time at home, people's got used to that, and a lot of them were anxious coming back to school. Um, you know, um, some people still actually wear masks, and that's nothing to do with the virus or anything. That's to do with they actually don't feel confident enough to take the mask off. They want to hide behind
gosh.
something, which is so sad.
Mm,
I think it's funny if we discuss this obviously as a team in school, my nurture team, that we do discuss this, and that we do think that like social skills seem to be less developed in a lot of the younger pupils, and that
mm,
is completely understandable if you think about how much school they missed and all the socializing that they were missing out on.
yeah,
I personally, I just think it's affected everyone's ability to become, more, well, not older people, adults, but the young people, their ability to become independent. Because I mean, if you think about teenagers, for instance, obviously I'm in a high school.
yeah,
During the teenage years in high school, you're supposed to be going out there and in school, forming relationships, forming friendships away from mum and dad, away from the family, independent of your family. And that is the normal progression. That is the normal part of growing up. But of course, with lockdown, that completely restricted them to be with just their family, which is not the norm. It's supposed to be about breaking away from the family.
yeah.
So yeah, to that becoming independent of your family just wasn't we weren't able to allow that to happen for our young people. So yeah, I think it's had a big impact, really.
Yeah, and like you said, it's those that interacting, isn't it, and forming relationships has just been so stifled. I suppose. Have you got any tips for adults on supporting those young people to build those relationships? Because I think not just as a teacher, as a parent as well, you do worry. I know for my daughter, you worry that they're just online all the time and not really, um, having those face-to-face sessions and having that time to make those friendships and build those friendships. So is there any kind of tips or anything you would say?
I think, are you talking about like with parents now, helping them? Yeah.
Or at school, for teachers, what
Yeah,
just help, encouraging those pupils to build those relationships again.
I think as a parent, obviously, you can support and encourage, and maybe facilitate like group activities or get-togethers with friends. Maybe encouraging sleepovers. But once you've done that, once you've facilitated, it's stepping back then and allowing your child to do to get on with the interaction there. And I think it's probably it's that modeling as well. It's like, I mean, I think parents probably got out of the those habits, those lovely habits we had of going to the gym or going to your yoga class or meeting up with friends. So maybe parents aren't doing
Yeah.
that so much since COVID, and if you're not doing it so much and you're staying home a lot more and you're not meeting up with friends, your children are going to see that. So it's a case of modeling what it is you want your children to be doing. And you know what? It's like we have to be kind to ourselves and compassionate to ourselves. We have all been through quite a turbulent 2 years and probably still going through a lot at the moment.
Yeah,
So be kind to ourselves and recognize, actually, let's take small steps. Let's just one small step at a time, and then celebrate small achievement. But yeah, I think it's about encouraging. It's about facilitating those opportunities. If you're someone that goes to yoga and or meets up with friends and hasn't been doing that so much, you should be doing that
yeah,
and showing your children what you're doing.
definitely. I like that. I like you said about modelling, because I'm thinking as a teacher as well. Um, we've kind of lost, it could be seen that we've lost that ability to be social as well. So modeling for the pupils that, we're talking to the staff, that we're still having a chat, at break times, maybe making sure that we're still modeling those social behaviors, I suppose, would be really important as well, because you forget about those things.
Absolutely, yeah. And you think at the end of the day, our children and our pupil, they are looking, they might look, we might not think they're actually watching or listening or seeing what's going on or picking up on the energy, but they are.
Yeah,
They're very intuitive young people. They pick up on energy, they pick up on what's going on around them. So we need to lead by example. We need to, obviously this conversation is about mental health and well-being. We need to be looking after ourselves and modeling that then to the young people.
definitely. I love that. And sort of on that thread as well, then, have you got any advice for, say, there was a teacher who was struggling to support a young person in class who said their mental health was suffering? Was there anything that they could do to support? I suppose to support your work.
Yeah. So, if a teacher came to me and said that they had a young person in their form or their class that was struggling with mental health or suffering in any way, firstly, I'd say if time permits, offer a safe space to talk to the pupil. It's got to
Nice.
be a safe space. And I would advise that teacher, just listen. That's all you have to do. You don't have to fix them. You don't have to make it all better for them. I mean, this is something I've had to learn over the years, because my tendency is to jump in and fix and to jump in and make it all better. But in actual fact, no, you
Yeah.
don't have to do that. And if you remember what I said at the beginning, I said about like just listening brings down the levels of toxic stress. So if a teacher is just listening and empathic listening, obviously, that is going to make a massive difference in itself. And then, so that would be the first thing I would say. Secondly, I would be encouraging signposting. Signposting is really important. And I think teachers need to really know what support your school offers. Obviously, different schools offer different support. But I mean, for example, I'm just talking about my school now. Do you have a counsellor? Do you have a nurture facility? Do you
Mm.
have a school nurse? Do you have the primary mental health team attached to your school? Your heads of year, your achievement team. All of these people. If you've got all of these people in place in your school, that's your where really you should be signposting the pupil to. And so then once you've listened, once you've given that empathic listening, and you can then encourage them to get some support from these different, the different options that you've got within your school. And I, what I would say as well is, I mean, obviously, if it was something really serious, I wouldn't do this, but it's normalised, just to normalise how they're feeling, because
Yeah.
I think it's normal for young people to have those wobbly days with their mental health. It's natural, it's normal, it's part of growing up, it's part of
Mm.
them learning about themselves, learning about life, learning about their values, learning how to become resilient. And it's up to us then to give them those tools and teach them the strategies to get themselves through whatever it is that they're going through. So normalize it to a certain extent, that it
Mm.
is normal to feel like this, but then obviously signpost them then to the to the people that can give them that support that they're looking for, depending on what they tell you. Yeah, that's probably the advice I would give a teacher that came to see me. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. I like about giving them a safe space and spending that time listening. But I suppose that's a bit of a challenge as well for teachers for having that time, especially in a high school where you're going from one lesson to another, finding that time to give young people that safe space. So I'm just wondering, what other challenges there might be when you're working with these young people or as part of your role.
Well, do you know what time is the big one? At the end of the
Mm.
day, in a school, it's fast paced, and I got the privilege of sitting for an hour with a pupil, so I am given that time. But then in between my pupils, there are pupils coming to see me, there's staff coming to see me, so it is about time. But
Yeah,
so challenges for me. Um, I would say, I think sometimes when you meet a pupil and you offer that support and you can see that there's just a couple of things they could do which would really make a difference for them, and
mm,
they're not willing to take action, that can be challenging because you can't force people to do anything. You can't, you can't, you can only encourage, you can only,
yeah,
model. But if they don't take on any action that you've suggested, which is going to help them, that
mm,
I can feel that's quite challenging. Um, I think sometimes as well is getting to the root of why people are feeling the way they do. Um,
yeah,
in my role, obviously, I have to when I meet people for the first time, I do have to look: is there an underlying issue here? Sometimes it might not just be about the feelings. I mean, sometimes it could be a safeguarding issue.
mm,
Probably a totally different direction we go in, but I've got to be conscious of that and. I think sometimes with sixth formers, it may be sometimes it's a change that needs to happen. So it's getting to the root of
yeah,
it and finding out. Well, sometimes I mean I'll give you an example. Sometimes pupils will come see me and they're feeling really low, they're feeling anxious, and we get down to the bottom of it, and they've chosen the wrong subject and they're really
mm,
struggling, and they just need to actually drop that subject maybe or change that subject. So just a bit of action can actually help them feel better and or maybe it's friendship issues. Perhaps there's actually some friendships aren't serving them. So for me, I suppose the challenge is finding what the reasoning is, the underlying reasons maybe for how they're feeling. Yeah. I
I
think
suppose you've
those are
got to be a bit of a
challenging
detective. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Oh, and it's there are so many different facets, aren't there? And I suppose no no day is the same, and you've got to be. I suppose it's quite a job where you've got to be really in the moment. I think that must be a bit of a challenge.
Well, I thankfully I practice mindfulness. I practice what I preach. I practice mindfulness, and I do an awful lot of mind, body, spirit work. I'm a bit of a yogi as well. I love my yoga, so I know for me it's essential that I stay in the moment when I'm with the pupil. I've got to be there with them. I've got to picking up on little things what they say, how their body language. So very important for me to be in the moment, but also for me to be aware if I'm having a sort of an off day,
Yeah,
to check in with myself. I've got to look after myself to make sure I'm on the ball here and I'm listening and I'm there with them. So yeah.
I think that's really important for across education, isn't it? Just looking after yourself as well,
Yeah.
because I suppose we can't support the mental health of young people if we're not
100%.
fully feeling it
Yeah.
okay ourselves.
I mean, that to me it is about we as adults, we need to be looking after ourselves. We need to be making sure our own mental health is feeling is great, and then we can model this then to our children, to our pupils, and that. Because, like I said, pupils will pick up on anything you're saying or doing, or the energy about you. And if you're saying to them do one thing and you're not doing it, that's why I said I don't share with my pupils anything that I'm not doing myself. That would just be hypocritical.
Yeah,
All these strategies I share, I practice, or if I'm not practicing now, I have practiced it, before, and I know I've got an opinion on it. I can talk about my experience of it, and that connection with a child, they can see that you actually, you're walking. You're walking the talk. You really do know what you're talking about. So
definitely. They can see right through you, can't they? As soon as you
100%.
try and blag something, you can't get away with it.
will tell you as well. They will say as well.
Exactly. Well, I think we'll take a little break there. I'm just going to pop the news on and then we'll carry on with our chat. Thanks, Alison.
Yeah, thank you.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, a leading publisher of books, directories, educational guides and magazines specifically aimed at forward-thinking schools in the UK and beyond. Have you checked out their latest releases? Don't miss out! Visit johncattbookshop.com to explore their full range of titles and advance your own professional development today. Happy reading!
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
A report on the BBC website focuses on Ofsted's response to recent criticisms following the death of Ruth Perry. Ms Perry died while waiting for a report which downgraded her school. Ruth Perry's sister, Professor Julia Waters, wanted a full review to take place, but Ofsted has announced only some changes. Chief Inspector Amanda Spielman said the organisation would continue to listen to try to make improvements. She outlined the changes in a statement, and they include looking at how inspectors can return more quickly to schools who have work to do on safeguarding, otherwise performing well, in order to reflect improvements in their judgments. Making the complaints process more responsive, which would see issues being addressed during inspection rather than afterwards, and holding briefings for head teachers where schools have not been inspected for a long time. In response, Professor Waters said the inspectorate was totally insensitive to the situation and was far from anything like a meaningful response to growing calls for reform. Education Secretary Gillian Keegan said standards on keeping children safe would not be watered down. The TES reports on concerns over school absence rates and the impact it could have on upcoming GCSE exams. Fears have been raised over the exam regulator's plan to return grade standards to pre-pandemic levels for the 2023 summer series, when a TES analysis reveals that absence is still 70% higher than before the COVID lockdowns. Year 11 students have missed 10.7% of sessions, equivalent of half a day at school, during the autumn and spring terms, according to DFE figures and FFT Data Lab information. The absence rate amongst disadvantaged Year 11 students is more than double that of their non-disadvantaged peers. Former Schools Minister and Chair of the Commons Education Select Committee, Robin Walker, said the findings were of a grave concern. Exam regulator Ofqual has promised some protection against any impact of COVID disruption to learning, but has not shared details. Despite a government drive on attendance, the objective to return attendance to normal pre-pandemic levels has not been met. School leaders and MAT CEOs have expressed concern at the lack of consideration being given to high absence rates. They also acknowledged that many had not anticipated the difficulties currently being faced. The Guardian featured an article on vaping and the concerns many have over the potential future impact on young people. With many schools acknowledging the difficulties they experience in dealing with vaping amongst children and young people, and research suggesting that pupils as young as 9 are admitting to vaping at least once, the article focuses on the downsides to what was initially presented as a more healthy alternative to smoking. The rise of the fruity vape flavours with enticing names such as Blueberry Blast have encouraged young people to believe they are harmless. According to some, they reduce your appetite, making them more enticing to some users. What isn't often talked about is the addictive element and the fact that many of the products, although not all, contain nicotine. Some youngsters who have never smoked have found themselves addicted to nicotine anyway. A recent study indicates that up to 15% of all 11 to 15-year-olds in the UK are now vaping, and the habit is proving just as difficult to kick as all other addictions, including smoking. Finally, many head teachers have called on Schools Minister Nick Gibb to drop what they describe as a misguided policy, which means schools must open for at least 32.5 hours per week. In a letter to the Minister, leaders of the two main head teachers' unions warn that since guidance on the proposal has not been provided, many have assumed it is not going ahead. The letter requests a minimum of a delay until September 2024. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Jo Fox.
Hey, hopefully you can hear me. We're back.
Hi,
Um, I,
can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can hear you. Great, we're back.
Rubbish with
I just,
technology.
I know it never seems to serve us when we need it, but we're doing well so far today, so that's good. I was just wondering if we start back on thinking about. I know you've talked a lot about mindfulness and things like that, and I was wondering if there were any kind of practical tips on daily practices that teachers could share with pupils and possibly use themselves, I suppose, to promote that good mental health and emotional well-being.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm thinking then maybe of form teachers, because form teachers could have that, that the option then of doing something daily. I mean, obviously, I know there's assemblies and that, but I would recommend mindfulness then, because I know some teachers in my school, they actually do mindful meditation with their pupils in the morning, not every day, but most days, and they do
Nice.
mindful colouring as well, which is quite a nice practice as well. Um, I I like to, because within Nurture, I've got pupils that come in first thing every morning. I like to set the intention for the day. Um,
Nice.
yeah, just setting it, because sometimes we wake up in the morning, we just go through our day, and reacting to everything that's going on around us. So I like to encourage people to set an intention for the day. How do you want this day to go? How do you want to feel today? And not obviously it's not going to work every single time, but I think it's a greater chance than of you actually having the day that you've intended. So as all the pupils together setting an intention, maybe as a class, as a form. Acts
I
of
like that.
kindness, means you could set your intention to do an act of kindness that day, and you all come back the following day to share what you've done. I am a massive fan of gratitude, practicing gratitude.
Lovely.
I absolutely, I just feel it changes your energy, it changes
Yeah,
everything. So I would highly recommend getting the pupils into practicing gratitude. You could have a positive news, a part of the form time. Just trying to think now.
well, I love that because I've been thinking about gratitude sort of in just at home more than anything, and talking to my little 11-year-old about, on our drive on the school run, come on, say something you're grateful for, because you can get into that kind of downward spiral before you even started your day, can't you? It's like, oh, we're in a rush, oh, look at the traffic, oh, we're going to be late. So that, yeah, changing the intention, having that bit of gratitude in the morning can make such a difference to your day. And do you think saying it out loud makes a difference as well?
Yes, I do. I think saying it out loud, I think writing it as well, though, because I know there is some evidence that it's about connecting the left and the right side of the brain. When you're actually writing down your gratitude as well, that's very helpful. In fact, that's one of the practices I do with my pupils. That I actually encourage pupils at the end of the day, have a little gratitude book and write down 3 things you're grateful for that happened that day, because we do have a tendency, and this is not just young people, this is adults too. We have a tendency when we've gone through the day that there could have been loads of great things that happened, and maybe one thing went wrong. And what do?
Yeah.
We focus in on that one thing that went wrong, and it just ruins our whole evening.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, adults do that too. So I recommend getting a little gratitude booklet and putting down 3 things you're grateful for in that book, just bullet points, and just focus on that at the end of the day. And I just think that can shift everything for you, shift your energy, shift how you're feeling about life and yourself. But I would recommend that as a daily practice, with your pupils in form time.
I love that. I think that's such a good idea. And having that little book to yourself to look back on even is quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you do want to cultivate mental wellness, and even resilience, then it is a good idea to engage in some core practices every day, and get into
Yeah.
the habit of doing that. And if you think, I mean, you could have even just just one fact every day. The teacher gives the pupils one fact every day that's going to benefit their health, going to benefit their mental well-being, mental health, emotional well-being. One fact each day for them to ponder. Can you imagine by the end of that term all the tools they've got, all the knowledge they've got then about supporting themselves? That that's going to make a massive difference to them as well.
Yeah, it's huge. And I suppose making it a priority as well. young people seeing the teacher and making that a priority just as important as, we do maths every day, or we do what, our other subjects. This is just as important.
Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. And you can go back to basics as well, though: diet, sleep, exercise, creating joy in your life.
Yeah.
But obviously it would help if the teacher is interested in this as well. It's going to be even better. It's not, rather than just think of it as a chore, because that's the last
Yeah,
thing, another chore added to the many things that they have to do anyway. It's got to be something that they enjoy. It's something that they want to do. It's something that they, and then the pupils are going to get into it as well.
I love that. Well, thanks, Alison. There's lots of good tips there. And I was just looking at a few statistics, and this one kind of stood out to me. Again, from the World Health Organization, which just said that 1 in 7 10 to 19-year-olds experience a mental disorder. And it was just talking about the consequences of not addressing this, because you think about, obviously, these young people are going to become adults, and it's going to limit their opportunities and their ability to lead fulfilling lives. So we were just talking about there how making it a priority is important. So do you think enough emphasis is put on teaching young people the skills to navigate their mental health?
Okay, well, when you said a mental disorder, I think there's a difference then between a mental disorder and what I think I deal with, which is sometimes mental distress. I think with a disorder, hopefully you would expect, parents and teachers and um, anybody else involved with that child, that there would be an early intervention and there'd be
Definitely.
specialist support put in place and possibly medication. So I think that, obviously that needs to be dealt with as early as possible. I think with mental distress, which is what I feel I deal with, yeah, I do think more emphasis could be, could be put on teaching the skills. I'm just trying to think. Yeah. I think in my school I think we do quite a bit, but I think there's always room for more. So yeah, I think there's always room for more.
And do you think there's a good place to start? If you were going
Well,
to just do one thing?
then it would need to be a whole school approach. I think it's got to be a whole school approach, and I think let's start with the adults first. Let's get some inset days in
Yeah,
for staff. We need to be modelling. We need to be living the skills, that we want to teach to these children. So a whole school approach. Um, Personally, I would focus on ways to relieve stress. For me,
yeah,
stress is probably one of the biggest contributors to mood problems like depression and anxiety. So, this is my belief now, but I just think it's the fastest and most powerful way to get your brain and body out of stress and anxiety is to use your breath. I
yeah.
think, I do teach straw breathing in actual fact to my pupils, because I just think it's a really, even if they don't come to me about anything to do with anxiety or anything like that, I'll teach them straw breathing, because I just think it's a really good thing to do. It actually relaxes the nervous system. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It gets you into that place where actually, it's okay. I'm okay. So yeah, I think breathing would be for me the place to start, and that's what I do with all my pupils as well.
I love that. What does straw breathing look like? So, because I haven't
Okay, so there's so many different breathing techniques, and they're all brilliant. But one of my favourites is it's you breathe in through the nose. So you take a long, slow, deep in breath through the nose, and then when you breathe out, you imagine you're breathing through a straw. So you purse your lips, and you just have a little tiny hole then between your lips. Then you breathe out, and that slows the breath down. And what you'll find is your breath will just go on and on and on and on. And then once you've emptied all your breath, then you do it again. You breathe in through the nose and then out as if you're breathing through a straw. And what that does, it's quite simple. It's just the fact that the out breath is extended. So long as your out breath is longer than your in breath, you are sending a signal to the brain that everything's okay, I'm safe, I'm relaxed, I'm fine, and the body will then follow. Because if you were in if you were in danger, you wouldn't be able to breathe like that, would you? So the fact that you're actually breathing like that, say you've got a thought comes up and it's like, oh gosh, no, breathe, take the deep breath, and then breathe through a straw. That will slow everything down. That will send the signal to the brain. So you don't actually do anything. You don't have to do anything. The body will do it for you. The brain will send that message to the body and it will relax your body.
Oh, I wish I'd had that before I came on this morning, and I couldn't get my I couldn't get my music to work and things. So I should have had my straw breathing. That would have helped me out.
I was doing my straw breathing before I started talking to you, I can assure you.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks. So what about, I was just trying to think about my high school experience as a pupil now, not thinking of teaching. And I remember just break times and lunch times just feeling like a really vulnerable time. You know, particularly if your friends aren't in that day, or they've got clubs and you haven't, and you know, where am I gonna have my lunch? Where am I gonna sit? What am I gonna do? And I'm just wondering if there's anything that you do, or any kind of tips or tips to do at break time that can be positive for everyone, I suppose.
Well, I've got the nurture facility here. I think that would come down to then form teachers as well, knowing their pupils. So if
Mm.
if you've got a good relationship with your pupils, you know that's an opportunity for people to tell you, look, my friend isn't in today, or they're feeling a bit anxious. And so for my school, obviously we've got the nurture room, so I'm open at break time and lunchtime, and then a staff member could send the pupil to me at break or lunch. And it is a calm, lovely room, and it's always supervised. We've also got a little library. It's only a small library, but it is a library. It's quiet. It's not like a
Nice.
common room where everyone's jumping around screaming. It is quiet. It's supervised. And you know, it's and it is lovely as well. It's a beautiful space to sit in if you're feeling a bit wobbly because your friends aren't in. We've got flower gardens. We are very lucky. We've got some flower gardens out the back with lots of benches. So I mean, if the
That's
people are
nice.
feeling confident enough to actually be sitting on their own, there is that opportunity as well. But obviously, achievement offices, you know, for the heads of year, they've got an office. So if you've got a good relationship once again, and you know your pupils, and your pupils, you know, they can come and have a chat with you, go to that space and that. So I think really it's about making space, isn't it, in your school, knowing that there are going to be some
Yeah.
vulnerable pupils, and if you haven't got a nursery, but create some space where pupils can go, where they feel safe, and that's what it's about. It's feeling safe, isn't it, and feeling calm.
Yeah, and I like what you said there about, it's about knowing your pupils, isn't it? And knowing, or having that relationship where they can say to you, you know, I'm going to struggle today at break time. I haven't got anybody to walk around with, or to play with. So yeah, I think having that relationship is so important, like you said.
Essential, yeah, yeah.
And what about, you know, the start of the day? I suppose we always talk about, don't we, the way that we enter, you know, let pupils enter our classrooms, and thinking about what might have happened to them that morning and that kind of thing. Is there anything that you do, or anything that would support that really, well, can be quite a difficult time?
Well, do you know that the first thing that comes to mind as you're saying that is, you know, that beginning of the day is really important for us as adults, and us as, you know, as teachers and support staff, to all be on the same page here. It's meet and greet, we call it. You know, if you're on the school gates, you've got to have open body language. You want to be smiling. You want to be calling the people their name, and
Nice.
saying, you okay, everything okay, and reading body language as well. If things don't look okay, you sure, you know, calling someone to the side. It's, you know, not standing there saying, well, where's your uniform, why are you late, you know, because
Mm,
his child's already just had a big argument with their parents that morning. The last thing they're going to need is somebody, you know, being on the attack when they come to school. It's going to create an awful day for them. So and I don't think that just should be on the school gate. I think that's within the school as well. Then, you know,
yeah.
start in school. As soon as you come into the school, you know, we need to recognize these young people. We don't know what they've been through the night before. We don't know what they've had, you know, what's happened that morning. We don't know if this child has been through some trauma. So really, we do need to be friendly. We need to be smiling. We need to have open body language, and I think definitely using the people's name as well.
Yeah.
That's going to make that a better experience for them coming into school. And I will say that we're so lucky because of my nurture room. We do have what we call a calm start here. So if there are pupils that are coming into school that aren't in a good place, that there is something going on at home, or they are going through, some severe anxiety, they actually can start their day here in the nurture room. And we have like soft music in the background, and it is a beautiful room. It's when you step into our nurture room, it's not like being in the school, it's actually stepping out of the school, but it's, it has got a calm, and teachers come here as well because they just want to have that calming moment. So
I bet we could all do with a calm start.
yeah, absolutely. But I think if you don't have a nurturer in your school, though, it's creating a small space just somewhere, so where people can relax, can feel safe, can de-stress a little bit. So yeah, and then
Definitely.
you're going to make some space available, but then make sure you've got dedicated staff then to check in with these pupils. So, but I think it can be a whole school approach here. We can make a massive difference to the start of the day for a child.
Yeah. Well, it's the same for adults, isn't it? It's that how can set your whole, like we talked about, your whole intention for the day can change just by one interaction, can't it?
Absolutely, yeah, we can make a massive difference. So yeah.
And then linking on from, they're coming from somewhere, so how do you facilitate that link with parents? What do you do, or what can teachers do to strengthen that relationship when talking about young people's mental health? And I suppose also with the thought of the trust as well, because I suppose they're sharing things with you, so you've got to, so it's protecting that trust, as well.
It's a delicate balance. I mean, obviously, when there's anything to do with safeguarding, things have to be shared. It's as simple as that. There's no, what do we do? What do we not do? It's
Yeah.
shared. But generally, I mean, me personally, I offer the same support to the parents, as I do to my pupils, and which is empathic listening. I was saying to you earlier about the listening, reducing those stress levels and that. Sometimes a parent just needs to talk. They just need to offload. They want you to listen. They want to feel understood too. And so that, when I'm talking to a parent or if I'm meeting with a parent, which I do, I always, treat them like I would, do with the pupils. I listen with empathy. And, I mean, I always ask pupils if I'm meeting their parents, and they know that, and I will ask for permission to share things with the parents, providing it's not a safeguarding issue. I do ask people, well, can I have permission to share this with your parent? And I do the same with the parent. I would say to the parent, can I have permission to share this with your child? And I respect both sides and that. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, I think pupils want you to get on with their parents. They want you to be okay with their parents. They don't want you not to. But I think at the end of the day, we've got to realise we're there to support the child, and the parents want the best for them. The teachers want the best for them, and it's about working together. It's about being respectful and listening and being compassionate and working together.
Yeah, I love that. It's building that respect. I love that. So I thought, because we're coming to the end of the session already, it's gone really quickly this morning. I was just wondering if we could do some quick fire questions of things. Just, I've found a few different strategies, and just if you could say which ones you prefer, I suppose, just for you personally to use with pupils. Okay. Does that work for you?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so the first one then, I've got personal journal or a worry box, like a class worry box or form worry box.
Personally, I would go for the journal.
Okay, fab. What about a mindfulness session or meditation?
I'd have to be a mindfulness session. I mean, I love meditation. I meditate every day, but a mindfulness session, definitely, yeah.
Fab. Okay, what about out in nature or a virtual session?
Oh gosh, out in nature. Out in nature every time. Nature is just phenomenal. Yeah.
Fab. Do you ever do that? I didn't ask. Yes, do you ever do?
I do actually. I go for walks with people, especially now in the summer I mean, obviously in the winter I'm sitting in don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful room, but once the summer comes, my nurture sessions, I go outside. We go for lovely walks. We sit in the flower gardens, and I just think that helps as well, just being in nature.
Oh, you've got a dream job.
I realise that as I'm talking to you.
Okay, so what about get creative or learn something new?
Ooh, I suppose I would go for learn something new.
Okay, fab. Healthy snacks or sweet treats?
Well, I'm a bit of a health fanatic, so I'd go for healthy.
Okay, I think you answered this a bit earlier, but maybe a walk and talk or chill and chat.
Walk and talk is great. Chill and chat is fantastic as well. Oh gosh, if I have to choose, then walk and talk. Then we'll go for walk and talk. Yeah.
Fab. What about up early or sleep in?
Up early, and and that's one of the things I always say to pupils as well. If they've got sleep problems, is set the alarm early for the same time every morning, and that will get you back into the rhythm of getting a good night's sleep. So early, definitely early.
Okay, I'm going to be telling my daughter that when I come off here. Grounding or hand breathing?
Ooh, well, I know what grounding is, but I've never heard of hand breathing. So
Well, it's. I think it's very similar to what you were saying about the straw breathing. Actually, it's just like using your finger to go up and down your.
the petals.
Yeah,
Yeah, you were using your finger to go up and down your one finger
yeah.
on the other hand. Yeah, yeah, okay. Oh gosh, I don't know.
You can have both if you want.
Yes, I'm going to go for both on that because both is effective. Yeah, both.
Okay, and what about brain breaks or shorter lessons?
I would go for brain breaks.
Okay, and then a group session or individual?
Individual every time for me. I find personally, I just find pupils open up so much more in a one-to-one session than they do when there's a few people there.
Yeah. Do you think there's a place for group sessions?
There is actually, and funny enough, I was at a meeting this morning because we're arranging a group session on for to look at anxiety in with some pupils. But yeah, I think obviously if they're all exactly the same issue and the characters work together well, then yes, it can be very successful. But for my role, which is trying to underpin why someone's feeling the way they are, individual every time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's so many little bits involved, isn't there? If you're trying to put a group together, that I suppose maybe you might lose the reason why you're actually there.
Well, young people do. They're so self-conscious, which is normal at that age. They are so self-conscious. They're never going to truly open up to you with their innermost thoughts and feelings if there's a friend or somebody else sitting there with them.
Yeah, it makes sense. It does make sense. Well, Alison, thank you so much for this morning. It's been such a great chat. I've picked up so many tips I'm going to use in my, in my professional life and in my home life. So I just want to say thank you so much. It's been so insightful and just so helpful. So hopefully you're going to have a fantastic day.
Oh,
And
I set the intention. I am going to.
yes, that's it. We've set the intention. It's going to be a great day. Oh, thank you so much, Alison.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks, Jez.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.